Welcome to this new section of the After Effects course. This section is diving deeper into shapes and solids. In the past sections, we've looked at shapes, and that was when we used our shape tool up here and we created shapes. So you can see that we create shapes down here. Solids are a little bit different, and they have different properties, and you can do different things with them. To create a solid, go up to Layer, New, and Solid. Also, just take note while we're here that this is a cool way to create some different types of layers, such as a light layer or a camera. These are things we'll be getting to in the future. So if I choose solid, it brings up this window where we can choose our solid settings. You can give it a name. You can also change the color. And this is going to be a full frame sort of color or shape. Typically matches your comp size, or you can just click this button to make it the comp size, then click OK. When you do that, it automatically pops up in your timeline, and it also pops up in this folder over here, which is a different kind of cool thing compared to your shape layers, because if you want to reuse these solids in different compositions, you can actually do that right from your project bin rather than recreating it as a shape layer. All right, so let me actually rename these just so you know. This is solid, this is shape. So we also learned that with the shape layers, that if you double click the rectangle tool, it creates this shape layer that's the full size of your composition. So actually I'm gonna delete this original shape we created and now call this one shape. Because you might be wondering, okay, we have a shape and a solid, what's the difference? If I turn off and on the shape, you're like, it basically does the same thing, right? Well, they do play different purposes. One of the reasons why I like using solids is that sometimes when you apply different effects to a layer, if you want it to be applied to the entire composition, you might need to use a solid layer, something we'll get into in the future as well. Another thing is that the way that you create masks. So with a shape, you can't really create a mask. If I take my, for example, star tool, and I want to create a star mask from this shape, it doesn't do it. It just creates another shape. Yes, I can turn off the rectangle and now I have a star, but it's a little different than creating a mask with a solid. If I do that with a solid, let's turn off our shape and let's take our polygon tool, and I have my solid layer selected and I create a mask. You can see that I create this shape, but what's actually happening is it's just sort of a cutout within the solid layer. Think of it as if you've ever baked cookies and you've rolled out your dough and then you get those little cookie cutters and you like stamp it onto your dough. It's basically stamping this shape onto it, but everything outside of it is still there. And we can actually delete this mask if we want to undo it. Or if you see now we have this mask within our layer, we can invert it. So just by clicking this invert button, now we have this solid layer with this cutout beneath it. And let me just show you how that works by bringing in our kangaroo photo. And that's in the background. Let me just make sure it's the right size. Turning off the solid, scaling down our kangaroo. Let's turn back on our solid. So now we have this mask, and we can take this mask, we can move it around. And there's also different options within the mask properties that you don't get with a shape layer, such as if you see when I drop this down, you have feathering, and you also have mask expansion, which expands the mask using the same sort of shape that you created it with earlier. This is a great way to create a quick vignette in After Effects. Let me delete this solid. To create a quick vignette, just press Command Y, which is your new solid button, or Control Y if you're on a PC. Make it black, click OK, and then click OK. Now we have this solid. That's the same size as our composition. And if we want a perfectly oval vignette, choose the ellipse tool, double click, which creates this oval mask. We'll need to invert it. So we're getting closer. Now it's just sort of this frame. And then we can use feathering to feather out the edges so we get more of a vignette. And then depending if you want it brighter or darker, you can decrease the opacity of the mask itself, or you can decrease the opacity of this entire layer. It's the same thing you're doing, but see, this opacity is just for this mask. But if you bring up the transform properties of this entire layer, you also get the opacity of the layer. So let me just turn this on or off. It's a quick way to create that vignette, and adding vignettes is a cool style. Don't go overboard with it. I know some people tend to add vignettes to everything they do, but it is a nice sort of cinematic style. Then, of course, we can animate all of these properties as well. If we want it to expand out, we can set a keyframe for the mask expansion as it is. Then we can go back in time, and then we can shrink our mask expansion. Let's actually make our opacity 100 so we can see what's happening. And I'm just shrinking it all the way till it's completely gone, negative 528 pixels. Now let's play through this. And then you have this nice sort of reveal. One quick last thing, this doesn't have to do with vignettes or solid layers, but one way to create a more sort of dynamic look with photos is what's called the Ken Burns effect, where your photos sort of subtly grow or shrink or move from side to side. And you can do that with an easy position or scale animation. So I'm going to, with my kangaroo, bring up scale, set a keyframe for 49%, put that at the beginning. Now set another keyframe for, let's just do 53%, put that later on. And now we can play through this. It's a little fast, so I'm just going to extend that a little bit. And that's a nice little opening animation with the vignette, and that's done with the solid layer, and then a little scale animation. Cool, so that's a bit about solid layers. In the next lesson, we're going to be going back to shape layers because there's more things that you can do with shape layers that we definitely need to cover.